examples where the bail is less. And that's cash that can also be paid in suitable surety or land documents as well. So that's where he was going when he said, encourage magistrates to join the fight. St. Lucians, just like the police, they appear to want the magistrates to be a lot more sensitive to our current crime crisis. So, Nigel, it's an interesting discussion. If you have the time, you give me a call before we get off. But my next guest is already on the line, the Flow Video platform. Let me not have him hold on any longer. Mr. David Moise is a social transformation officer for the Grosley district. Mr. Moise, thanks for being patient, and thanks for agreeing to come on. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. LeBon, for having me on board this morning.
It's our pleasure to always engage officers like yourself as we try to find a solution to the issues impacting our young kids, our youth, the youth involvement in crime, vulnerability. We'll talk about the link there. What are you seeing in Grosley in as far as your response efforts, meeting with some of these vulnerable youth? What are some of the contributing factors that you've seen coming to the fore in that particular district?
Well, if we speak of our young people, some of the major concerns among our young people are the lack of employment and employment in the Grosley region. And that could be stemmed from a number of factors. The fact that you have a large influx of persons moving into Grosley trying to get employment, but yet still cannot find it. Again, Grosley being a touristic center, a lot of persons believe that jobs are readily available, and so they migrate to Grosley and unfortunately cannot find the jobs that they're looking for. A lot of them also, you would find that they're not trained in certain areas, which makes their employability even less. They do not have the necessary skills, sorry. Also, well, among our young people, there's a lot of loitering going on, a lot of lack of engagement in positive, meaningful activities, and it could be as a result of them not, being skilled to care for themselves in terms of, even finding self-employment, creating self-employment for themselves. So that's one of our major issues in Grosley as it relates to our young people.
What are some of the other social factors that you see contributing to their vulnerability, the youth in that section of the island?
Well, we can speak to a number of factors. One, we can speak to poverty among some of our young people. We could speak to factors such as, the family, a lot of them being exposed to abuse in the homes, a lot of them coming from broken and dysfunctional homes. A lot of them being raised by single mothers, young single mothers who do not have the support or the training in raising children. We can also think of some of our young people dropping out of school as well, not completing secondary school or even primary school. And so as a result, they cannot find the type of employment that they need to be meaningfully engaged.
Yeah. We see a lot of them also engaging in some deviant behavior, more so in the city, but Grosley is not immune to this national problem as well. What are they saying to you when you interact with them? Why do they engage in that sort of activity? How do they get associated?
Well, I want to first of all take on what you said just a while ago with regards to engagement in deviant behavior. Whereas it could have been worse, I must say that in Grosley it's a lot more peaceful, as you said, compared to Castries. And it could be that the young men, they still have some level of respect for the elderly, they still have some level of respect for themselves. In Grosley, you have a number of gangs, a lot of street corner groups, but yet still we notice that it's still a bit calm in Grosley. We're praying that it could continue that way. When you speak with them and when you speak with a lot of them, they simply, one said to me recently, we need money on the streets. And I guess he was speaking to employment. And that is one of the main issues. A lot of them keep saying to you, give us a contract to, give us a small job, give us something to do. So they're asking for work. They're asking for work. But in some cases, when you actually give them work, what they actually want is quick cash. right? They actually want something where they could get a large sum of money at one time. And so we have that level of distraction among our young people that they do not understand what it is to actually go out there and give a full day's work to get a full day's pay. They believe everything has to be immediate. Even when you offer them some level of training to try to increase their level of employability, they would say to you that engaging in such training would take more time, whereas there are activities that they can engage in that would give them the quick cash. So that is a
that's a reality. Two things there for me. Where's that culture come from? We seem to have grown a culture of the quick cash citizen. Everybody is a contractor or wants a contract. Where's that culture come from, and how can we start to pull back on that?
I believe it comes from, I want to say, the home as well, because I think it's a matter of raising children and encouraging them to learn that in order to get these rewards in life, there's something that must be done, something that must be given. So you work hard, you get the reward that you want. Most times in families, you find young people simply demanding things from parents. And when they do not get it, you see them becoming even violent within the family. So I think that is where it starts off in the family, where children need to be taught, young people need to be taught to work towards those rewards and to get these rewards when they have them well, when they have them fairly. Also, I believe it's something that we see in our society where, a lot of promises are being made. A lot of persons go about handing quick cash, handing those handouts, giving these handouts, basically to get some level of fame, get some level of security among these people. So there's a promise that is going on, and a lot of people are looking forward to that because they see Shannon got it, and I want it as well. They do notice the other person is receiving contracts, I want it as well. So there's that sense among our young people that, just give it to us, let us get it now. And if you cannot give it to us, we're not going to do. We're just going to sit down there and wait for the next person.
Yeah. Let me just stick a pin there. I know you're using an example, but I haven't gotten any contracts. I wanted to just.
It was just an example.
I know, Mr. Moise. I couldn't miss the fact that you said the gangs are factoring grossly. How big of a problem is this gang movement in the district?
I think it's a serious problem, not just in Grocery, but throughout our island. And as a former social studies teacher, I reflected on the situation currently. And I'm saying to myself that a lot of persons join groups for a number of reasons. They join groups to develop that sense of belonging. They join groups in order to, gain some level of reward. They join groups to feel appreciated. And I think that in the absence of those things in families, in the absence of those things in our social groups, because these days we lack, we have less social groups. So in the absence of those things, even our churches too, a lot of young persons are no longer safe in those areas. So they get all of these rewards, all of this satisfaction from the streets, from the gangs. So they get that sense of belonging. They get that sense of achievement. As the inspector said a while ago, there's the reward that comes from doing an activity within that gang. They get that sense of security, protection, and even authority when it comes to gangs. So a lot of our young people seem to be migrating towards the gangs simply because the families cannot provide, and this is where it's available for me.
Where do we push back? How can we make the after-school programs as competitive as the gangs, as attractive as the gangs? How do we start to fix that breakdown in the family structure?
With the after-school programs, and I'm happy that you mentioned it, because our ministry, we had at one time almost 14 after-school programs around the island. And unfortunately, we had to stop for a little while. And we were hoping that the ministry would catch on to the after-school programs once again. But with the after-school program, I believe it should be one where, yes, we provide academic support to our students, we provide psychosocial support. But also we need to tap in on the talents of these children when they attend the after-school programs. It has to be something that they enjoy coming to, and they can actually see themselves being developed through that program. Let me give you a perfect example in Moshi. I believe Moshi had one of the best after-school programs on the island. Why? Because out of the program, there was a music component. And we saw when I came in as social transformation officer for Grocery and having to interact with that after-school program, I saw a lot of young men and women enjoying the music. There was Sergeant Silly who worked with them and pushed them, and they were always willing, even when they were supposed to attend other components, they were going towards the music. So it is something that they loved, something that they enjoyed. And added to that, they also got the opportunity to go out in the public and represent the community as well. So they played, for example, at the hotels, at community activities, at national activities on the square. They were out playing. And they also, in some cases, saw the revenue coming in towards their organization, towards their program. So an after-school program has to be one that really develops the children holistically, but at the same time develops the talents, the abilities that they would see growth in what they're doing.
Absolutely. It cannot just be a generic after-school program just for nomenclature sake. Talk to us about other social transformation interventions which can have a positive impact in addressing the vulnerabilities of our youth.
All right. So as a ministry, we do appreciate that we basically help with community development. And we need to look at the needs of the community. And as we look at crime as a serious issue in our country right now, our unit, the Community Services Unit, has identified a number of initiatives that we'd like to bring forward to the community to help spread the message of a gun-free, anti-crime, anti-gun violence community. And so we have a number of initiatives that were already implemented in some cases, some we want to implement. I take, for example, in Grocery, on Tuesday, we started the Police in My Community Forum, where we're trying to get the police and the community to come together once again to discuss issues as it relates to crime and safety within our community. On Tuesday, I think the community was pleased to hear from the police with regards to the statistics as it relates to Grocery, the patterns as it relates to crime and violence within our community. They were able to hear how they could assist the police in doing their job. And a very important point that was brought up by Zachary Hippolyte is that the community is actually the police. It should not just be those men in uniform. It is us also to police our community, to identify what is going on, to put in interventions that these things do not occur, and to try to put measures in place to address some of those things that are going on. And so we were happy at that meeting. We learned, a lot of us learned for the first time of the 555 line, which the inspector spoke about earlier, which is very important, where you could call in to make reports on things that you would have witnessed, and your identity would remain anonymous. Also through the policing program, we're expecting that kind of relationship would be established or re-established, where people would feel safe talking to and relaying matters to the police without feeling any form of intimidation or feeling any fear. Also, we work closely with institutions such as NELU, National Enrichment Learning Unit, to train some of our young people in areas where they can, find some level of employment, especially in the vocational areas, the technical areas. A few years ago, just before COVID, we trained at least 17 young people in the Riviera Meter community. They did that course, electrical installation with NELU. They were both males and females, and these young people graduated with the basic knowledge in electrical installation, and the intention is that they can use that skill to actually go out there and find employment for themselves, since we have recognized that employment is an issue contributing to some of our social ills in Grocery. And so I'm thankful for NELU, who is always available and willing to assist us in providing some of those programs in our community. We also have started an anti-gun violence campaign within our department. And very soon the launch will be taking place. And you will hear some radio and television PSAs, and we're hoping that, simple lines could go on. So as persons go out throughout the day, and they can hear those lines going through their mind, where we put down the guns, we become our brother's keeper. And we're hoping that it's a message that will go out, not just to the ordinary man, but even to the young, vulnerable persons as well. So that if they find themselves in any confrontation, then that line could go through their mind, that they can go through their head, and they can realize, look, I need to put down my gun. I need to be my brother's keeper. So there's a campaign that will be coming up very soon. We also have some social crime prevention training that we'd like to do with various members of our communities, our gatekeepers, our youth leaders, and even some persons within the community, basically sharing with them some strategies to prevent those criminal activities in our communities. And also we want to do some training with those business places as well. We also have to consider the impact of crime violence on the family and other persons who may not necessarily be the victims, but they become victims as a result of the loss. And so we're trying to train some young persons, volunteers within our communities who will be able to provide psychosocial support to persons who are affected. And even so, even if you're not necessarily affected, but you can also find them as peer counselors who can help you if you have any issue, any difficulty that you are going through. There's a mentorship program that we have spoken of, and thankfully that came from the interim chairperson of the National Youth Council, your brother. We're very grateful that he has put together a program for us, and we're trying to see how that can be implemented. And the idea is to start a parenting program with our parents, with some of our parents within our communities, and to bring back the BLESS program. BLESS basically refers to the basic life employment skills. And so we want to do some training with young people to cause them again to be able to make themselves more marketable and to find ways to pitch themselves, that they become more employable and ready to work rather than to just receive. So these are some of the programs, just a few, that we are going to look to implement.
Absolutely commendable from the Department of Social Transformation. I'm looking forward to the launch of the anti-gangs campaign, which you spoke to. I think that is needed, especially now. But it's good to know that the ministry has this structured approach at social transformation. Two things from me there. A lot of these initiatives perhaps will not attract the most at risk and the most vulnerable youngsters within the communities, those who are engaged in some of the deviant behavior. Talk about targeted approaches to identify these individuals, because I know through your social transformation engagements, you know exactly who's most at risk.
Okay, so you're quite correct. They are not necessarily going to attract those most at risk. But what we intend is for it also to prevent more young persons from going further into these type of behaviors. So that's one of our areas that we're looking at. And even we were thinking, well, maybe they may not listen to some of those messages, but the engagement with persons who would have listened to would also help bring about these the message to these people. Targeted approaches. We're working with community-based organizations and hopefully faith-based organizations as well to actually be on the ground with these at-risk young persons. We're working currently with Donation Foundation, and we're working towards a men's convocation, which is supposed to take place on the 27th of November. However, as a unit, community services unit, the intention is that following this intervention, we, the social transformation officers, will continue to remain on the ground with these men, with these women as well, who are vulnerable, most at risk, And we will continue to hear from them. We'll continue to make them aware of some of the interventions that are available to help them. And we will continue to hear from them their own recommendations as to what can be done to assist them. So there will be that direct interaction
Excellent.
with these young persons on the ground whom we
Excellent.
consider to be most at risk.
Excellent, great stuff. Let's talk quickly about the role of the community, because I know in your time growing up, the community support was always there for families. That seemed to have dwindled. How much of a role must the community play? And I speak specifically to Groselia. How much of a role must the community play in helping to address some of the vulnerability that we see now with the youngsters?
Well, for me, for me, Mr. LeBon, it cannot be just family alone. Especially when we look at the family these days with a lot of young persons raising children, there needs to be some more support. And I believe in the community helping to raise children. This was done, as you said, in our time when we were younger, and I think that this needs to continue. However, I think it's important that families encourage the young people to become part, families encourage their children to become part of the community, whether it be through volunteerism, whether it be through participation in activities. Because even if the community comes together to provide that support, but the family has these children sheltered from society, away from the society, any intervention done by the community would not be impactful. And so the family needs to direct children to positive activities within the community. And I do believe that we still need the significant role that youth organizations can play, the NYC, the community youth and sports councils, then the schools as well. There's still much that can be done within the community. There's a lack of uniformed groups, and some persons are questioning the relevance of such organizations at this point in time. I believe that they are just as relevant as they were yesterday. They are just as relevant today, because there are certain skills that came from your involvement in such groups.
Absolutely.
And yes, we may not get those who are most at risk trending towards these activities, but at the same time, if we can start from very young, getting our young people to get involved in these type of organizations, these type of positive activities, then definitely the change can begin with our young people right now. Community support, I mean, if we think of being our brother's keeper, I mean, I remember clearly the peer counseling program where young persons could have spoken to each other. And I think that needs to be instilled, where young people listen to young people. And so if we can get young people to be trained to speak with young people, then that would be a way of providing support. Our churches, we need to call on our churches to come out of the four walls and get into the streets. Provide that type of support away from the four walls. Because the young people, a lot of them are no longer willing to go to these churches. And so it means that church now has to go to the streets to provide that level of support to our young people. Even as the businesses within the community, we need their support. We try to organize some of the training, even through our units, and start to say we do not have the resources that we need through our units all the time. But then the businesses, we need a partnership with our commercial sector as well in our community.
Yeah.
So the community does play a significant role. We cannot undermine that role, and we're encouraging the community to wake up. Let us work together and let us address those issues together as a community.
Yeah, excellent. Two more questions for me before I let you go, Mr. Moise. When you hear social transformation, quite often, it comes across as the forgotten sibling for somebody. It's never up front as a Ministry of Economic Development or Infrastructure. Social transformation always appears to linger in the background, somebody's forgotten sibling. Do you think we're giving significant priority to this important mandate of social transformation here?
I believe that there's much more that needs to be done and can be done. Really and truly, even as a unit within the ministry, we look for support, and it's not always available. If we're talking of changing communities, transforming communities, it means changing lives. And you cannot ask someone to change their life without providing the type of support that is needed. Take, for example, we can provide employability readiness training, but if the young people cannot get, for example, to experience the workplace, experience what is needed, the attitude, the type of attitude, the type of skills that are needed in the actual workplace, then it becomes almost a futile experience. And so we're asking that more needs to be done from government, from private sector, from private individuals, that we work together to transform our society. There are resources that are needed in terms of human resources, and we want to thank those who have expressed their desire to assist through volunteerism. A lot of our work is done through volunteerism, persons offering their services. And whereas we know that some persons would say to us that they paid money to upgrade themselves, but yet still we're utilizing them for free. But I want to thank those who see the need to volunteer and to provide that level of service in our communities. I want to thank those who have given resources, financial or will be through kind, in ensuring that some of our activities get on stream. So yes, not enough is being done when it comes to social transformation, but we're grateful for the little that we have gotten, and we're asking more persons to take social transformation a bit more seriously and see that if our society needs to change, there needs to be some form of transformation. We all need to get involved. There needs to be the resources to support it, and we need to see it as something that is not done just in one day, but that is continuous.
Yeah. Well said, well said. And finally, your message to that vulnerable youth on the block, or perhaps at home, can't find a proper breakfast this morning, unsure where lunch will come from, and looking for some opportunity, some way out. What do you say to that young person, bearing in mind the vulnerability that currently exists in their fragile space?
Well, I believe that when a man is basically desperate or hungry, no, you have to be careful how you intervene and what is said to that young man. But to the young children, I want to encourage them that they can be at school. Schools do provide that school feeding program where they can get meals, and both lunch, breakfast in some schools. I know that for sure in the grocery schools, that on mornings breakfast is provided and lunch will be provided in some cases. However, to the young person who is not employed looking for breakfast, whereas there are programs that are available to assist you, I believe that in life we can only make our situation better when we invest in ourselves and when we seek to develop ourselves a little bit better. Our situation today does not have to be the same tomorrow. Okay, so if we make ourselves available where we can find the training, we can find, for example, the support that we need, I think that you would be able to develop your skills, and you would be able to, become self-employed. You can work and get that type of resource that you need. I still believe that there is community in some cases where support can be given. And I know pride sometimes prevents us from declaring our needs. However, there are opportunities. There are persons available, some of the churches that are available to provide some support to you as a young person. So it's not all lost in our society, but at the same time, if you do not make yourself available to receive, and if we too, as the institutions responsible, do not make ourselves available to you, then obviously things would never get better. And I really want to see that our community, we work together, we identify what needs to be done. In some cases, it has to be done on a case-by-case level, or in some cases, you may want to do it as a group. Take, for example, I know some young men who are experiencing poverty, and with them, we were able to get them to start up their own garden. And we're thankful for the lady who provided them the area, the land to do so. And so they have been able to grow their own watermelons, pumpkins, and to generate funds.
Excellent.
So that can happen only when you allow the institutions to work with you. And with the institutions, we make ourselves available to assist these young people who are in need as well.
Excellent. Before I let you go, I must share some feedback from one of our viewers who sent in a message on the WhatsApp platform. The writer says, your guest is spot on and a great and dedicated worker. However, one, the gangs form and then build the organization structure with their values and rewards for promotion. Two, one climb the ladder based on loyalty and by executing objectives effectively. Three, most heads are university graduates with business majors. Others get to the top by their duties. Four, rest assured, they are not the common guys you see in the streets. These are the workers, not the management. The gangs are growing fast and becoming more ruthless. Please ask your guest his position on the above. Any feedback as you go?
I totally agree with this individual, and I will tell you why. Very often when we look for a cause for crime in our community, one of the causes we identify is just poverty, and we leave it as that. Poverty is only one factor. There are numerous other factors, and I think Mr. Matthew a while ago did mention it, that you do have families that are poor, but yet still never engage in criminal activity.
Absolutely.
Okay? We also have to look at that there are persons in higher ranks in society, as that individual said, who also get involved. They're not directly involved to say that they're on the ground, but they are calling the shots more or less. They are the ones directing. And so we need to find out who these persons are and let the relevant authorities deal with these people. And there should be no how should I say it? It's not because you are Shavon's son that you should be given certain privileges as opposed to someone who comes from the streets. No, we need to deal with all of these individuals. We need to understand that the gang structure has evolved. It's a new dynamic now. The person that you least expect to be involved are actually the ones, as you said, leading these organizations. So we need to keep our eyes open, our ears open. And I would say to families, you need to protect your children, because the person whom you think that you can trust might very well be the one trying to steal your children from you. So you need to be careful, you need to be mindful, and that is my take on it, that I believe broken family structure is more responsible for our crime right now than poverty. Because even the wealthiest of families, where these children may have witnessed abuse or neglect, silent neglect, they get involved in these criminal activities as well. So our support needs to be given to them as well. But we need to be mindful that our children, you as a parent, you must play that important role in raising and safeguarding your children from these elements that are out there seeking to kill, steal, and destroy our young people.
One of Facebook viewers says, good job, Mr. Moise. Catherine McPhee giving you a shout out there on the Facebook feed.
Thank you very much.
Excellent contribution this morning. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Mr. Labon. Have a good day.
Yeah, you as well. David Moise, Social Transformation Officer for Grosley, coming in on this discussion this morning, talking youth vulnerability and crime. What are some of the contributing factors and what are some of the proposals on the table? Next, the head of Human Services will join me as we race to the finish line on this Thursday. We end on top of the hour of 9. But just before we go to a short commercial break and then bring on the head of Director of Human Services, I'm down. We just want to give 2 plugs this morning. Let's put the first one up, that one being the police officer. If you could put the image up for me, I would really, really appreciate it. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force mourning the loss of another officer with the passing recently of Officer 277 Danny Kodra. He passed away en route to hospital on the ambulance in the early evening earlier this week. This death, the death of Officer Kodra 277 Danny Kodra, makes it 2 officers lost by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force in 2 weeks. You remember Sergeant Delise of the police band, who recently passed away. So we take a moment to say condolences to the families of Sergeant Delise, and on this occasion the family of 277 Danny Kodra. Condolences to you in this extremely difficult time. Mr. Kodra leaves behind colleagues who love them dearly, and a pregnant fiancée as well, who we understand is taking it extremely rough. We send you love and we send you strength at this particular time. No one actually knows your struggle, but we know that the good Lord will find a way. 277 Kodra, he served with distinction, and we thank him for his service to us here in St. Lucia. May he rest in a perfect peace. Let's move on quickly, Don, and then we take a short break. Put the second one up for me. We must give this activity a special plug this morning. It's ready, Don? It is? Yeah, sure. My next guest would be the Director of Human Services. Lots happening with young people, and she's already standing by. We'll continue. You can take down Mr. Kodra's image. She's already standing by, and I will move to her shortly. We conclude on top the hour of 9. Let's go on. I must give this initiative a plug this morning. Put it on for me, Dan, please. Excellent. So Net Blazers Basketball Club, NB, they've organized a fundraising that I must give a plug this morning. It's a fundraising activity for Coach Melissa John, who requires our assistance as she needs to undergo some medical care related to, is it kidney failure? Correct, it is kidney failure. So this fundraising activity happens on the 25th of November from 12 noon onwards, and it will take place at the VG Sports Complex Car Park, November 25th. If you want to come out in large numbers and support this fundraising barbecue, it's for Coach Melissa John, who still continues to coach, by the way, despite her medical condition. She's a good soul, a strong lady. We send her love and strength and warmth and positive vibrations this morning, and we encourage St. Lucians to come out November the 25th. Let's support this NB Net Blazers Basketball Club fundraising activity for Coach Melissa John. We take a quick commercial break and come back with the Director of Human Services here in St. Lucia. Good morning. It's just about 25 minutes now before 9.
Get your clothes sparkling clean with whiter whites and brighter colors. Use Joby Anti